So this is what we ended up with. We've gone through a very long and very useful process. We've gone through meetings, we've gone through different designs, different reviews, and after that, you usually don't have what you started with. This meets all the goals. This bunny meets our goals. It's still pink. It's still kind of cute. And it still probably eats carrots. Or metal, I'm not sure. But this meets the goals. This meets the goals we set in the beginning. This now also meets the goals of the programmers. This meets the goals of QA, and this meets the goals of the artists. We often bring in the GMs as well. I didn't mention them because they're not a formal part of the process, but they know a lot about how players behave, where players are going to run into problems, and generally how you should structure things to the maximum benefit of players. So, to recap, what we do is that we have a department that's responsible for all the software, all the hardware that we need to keep things going. And they're very good at their job. I didn't mention any job openings there. They're not actively hiring. If they see an application from a very good person, they might hire someone, so there's no harm in trying. But they're not actively looking at the moment. But we have a policy of if we find good people, we take it, even if we don't need it right away. And as a result of this policy, we have a lot of very good people at CCP, very experienced and just very talented. We help people. We have 60 GMs responsible for helping people and enforcing the rules. And having 250,000 players and 60 GMs is a pretty high ratio compared to many other games. I'm not going to mention any names, but but that means that we can actually give decent help. We give very good help and timely as well. We had problems before when we had less GMs that the waiting times would become a bit longer. But now that we have this many and we have very trained and very experienced GMs, they're very good at what they do and they can do it very quickly. Enforcing the rules is also, part of that is going to be things like cracking down on disk sellers. And we've been actually making a big effort in that lately, and it's going really well, and we're enforcing the rules all the way. But there are still people breaking them. We don't like that. And we're going to continually develop the world. For the last few years, we've been giving out 2 big expansions every year, and we've been doing point releases in between them. And each expansion, each point release brings in new features, they bring in new content, and they bring in generally new game experience. I mentioned that this was the procedure we used for the Empyrean Age. This is our latest expansion where we brought in factional warfare. The 4 factions of EVE Online, 4 biggest factions, they had been in a state of very uneasy peace, what they called the status quo. And this was where there was a lot of friction, it was very uneasy, and finally it just bubbled up and they broke into full-fledged war, which is now possible to take part of on EVE Online. And what we did is that we wrote a novel, well, not all of us obviously. Tony Gonzalez wrote a novel that explained the political background, that explained what the people were thinking that were responsible for starting the war. And he wrote, it was a really thick novel, it's like 500 something pages in almost A4, so I mean it's pretty hefty. It's I would call it pretty epic. It's big political happenings on a lot of different stages in all the 4 factions with people all over the world. And I finished reading it myself last weekend and I really recommend it. We have some brochures here that we will be giving out after the presentation, after the questions are done with, which are 1 chapter from the book. So if you're interested in familiarizing yourself with it, but don't want to buy it just yet, just come and get a brochure. So, ccpgames.com, that's the official website for the company, CCP Games. So if you want to apply for any jobs or you just want to know us better, then you can have a look in there. we have a lot of job postings up already, and then you can just submit general application. If you want to try Eve, I mean, I know there's people in here who have never tried Eve and maybe never heard of Eve before today. So if you want to try it, you can go to eveonline.com and you can get a free trial. And if you do that, I recommend that you seek out Eve University. It's a bunch of players that just self-organized with absolutely no help from us. They just came together and they said, we want to help new players. We are tired of doing the things we're doing, but we don't want to stop playing altogether, so we want to help new players get in the game. As I said earlier, this is a sandbox with 250,000 people, and it's all based around interactions. So each new player in the game is going to enrich your experience. And these players understand that, and that's why they want to help new players get in the game. Okay. Yeah, we have the brochures. We'll deliver them after the questions. So who wants to get the first question? No one. Up there?
I know you said you're not calling any names, but I play both EVE Online and World of Warcraft. Do you have any idea or any numbers of how many GMs per player World of Warcraft has compared to yours?
Well, I said I wasn't calling any names, and I can tell that I'm not talking about World of Warcraft. I know they have a decent number of GMs. I don't know exactly what the ratio is, but I know they have decent support. And that's been in a good way.
Do you have first-hand experience of it?
No, not really, but I know some people that work there. Anyone else? Yeah?
Is it ever going to be possible to, well, give out your megaphone, basically, add colors or something like that, or stick your cooperation logo to all of the ships?
So you mean basically personalizing your
Yeah.
ships? Well, that's going to be possible. This is an idea that we've actually come up with ourselves countless times, and it was possible in the beta, if I remember correctly. What we found out is that it takes up a lot of resources. You have to send a lot of information between players to be able to keep that up. And if the choice is between that and less lag, we're always going to choose less lag. If we can find a way to do it without lag, then yeah, sure, of course. But until we come up with that way, then I'm going to have to say no.